Hi everyone, so this is just a little product development and product update video. So there's at least one person who's been rather frustrated, including myself, about the lack of progress I've been making on the VESC based motor controller. I started work with that probably over a year ago now, and I've still got nothing to show for it apart from one working prototype and another one which is taking too long to make. So those are the main issues. The current design consists of 3 different boards, and there's too many through-hole components, so that's my fault. And to build it up and assemble it is taking far too long. So what I've done is gone for a 5th design iteration. Now this design we should hopefully nail it this time, because it's all surface mount. It can be made in 2 steps. So I just place all the components on top of the solder paste and then put it in the oven, and that's it. A VESC based motor controller, and pretty much just 2 steps. So after that I just put it in the aluminium case and solder in all the relevant wires and connections. I think this version will actually have, it will sell with actually no connections coming out of it. I'll actually have a warranty void if removed sticker, which will probably go over the programming port, so people can't like mess with the firmware and stuff. But I've discovered myself that having all these connectors sort of hanging out of a controller is not ideal, because in some cases they get salty water in them, which in my case resulted in the horn on my electric scooter being on constantly when I was going to my work one day, which was rather embarrassing. And I wasn't able to use my car because, well, it's in getting fixed just now. So that's an issue that I'll get onto in this video. So I would have had the design done by now, but unfortunately the main constraints I have are just time and money. In anticipation of this huge bill that's coming up for my car, which will be over £1,000, I have been doing lots of overtime at work, pretty much 60 hours a week, usually 55, 60, and that's just well, in anticipation of the repair bill. Also, every time I submit a parts order, I buy parts, I also do an overtime shift at work, because I just do not want to dip into my savings unless there's absolutely no other option. So that, combined with the fact that I'm still working on my house, there's just not enough time for me to get to where I want to be. The battery management system, that's actually okay. I did a final design iteration on the main board for that, as well as all the slave boards that go with it onto the cells, and I'm very happy with the way that's functioning. I just need to make more of those boards, and I'll get those boards made up when I submit my next 2 designs for 2 other products off to JLC PCB to be manufactured. So while they're off getting manufactured, I'll work on the things which I have already. It's just sort of a kind of rota type thing that I do. But if I had total financial, and if I was financial independent, I had money coming in from somewhere, it would be the case of I would just be doing this 24/7 full time pretty much, apart from sleeping really, because I do enjoy it that much. This is the stuff I enjoy the most, electronics design, and it's just that unfortunate that I cannot spend my entire life doing it. There's just too many other limitations on the way just now, unfortunately. So what you see on the screen is something else I've actually been working on for a while. It's an idea which has been in my head for a few years now, but has only recently just made progress to actually become real. So this is a drop-in board for the BMW i3 range extender inverter. It's for the small inverter which goes on the range extender generator, and this drop-in board will allow you to just make the thing into a VESC, a high voltage VESC. So of course it's all isolated and everything, so you're not going to get electrocuted off it. It's been built with high voltage safety in mind, as well as I've consulted with a large community of electronics developers on the VESC Discord to make sure that this is getting designed properly, and I'm just routing the PCB traces and everything. That's kind of what's holding up the VESC development work. I've still to actually make the new board for that. I've started design on that. That's what's on the screen just now. I know you can't really see it that well, but that's what's also been holding up the project. I'm not able to get the current sensors, but I've redesigned the current sensing, so it's a bit more expensive, but it could withstand. Well, the current sensing, it could withstand, like, I'm sure it could withstand about 500, 600 volts. So because it's isolated, the current sensor is isolated, it's actually using Hall effect current sensors, so it's going to be quite easy to make high voltage compact VESC motor controllers now using the Hall current sensing method. So that's a huge positive, because the previous version was using current sensing amplifiers, which can only withstand up to 80 volts, I believe. And if you go over that, then obviously you're destroying them. That's what I've got here. I'm using isolation amplifiers, and I was going to use operational amplifiers in a slightly different design, but that's not needed anymore. But you can see the problem that I'm up against. This here, just these, that's over £40 worth just here. So the issue is the expense of parts, and I need to do lots of shifts at work to cover that. So unfortunately, the expense, again, it's just the time and expense that's holding me back, which is preventing me from being where I need to be. So while that gets manufactured at JLC PCB, I'll be working on getting a small pilot sale of the battery management system out to everyone, and if that is successful, what I will then do is let HM Parliament and Governments PLC, the rather dodgy company which operates in this country, know that I'm trading, so that they do not come and inflict violence upon me for not letting them steal money off me. So I'll let them register with them and all the rest of it, and then I'll be in business, hopefully, anyway. So yeah, definitely not where I want to be. I'm just as frustrated about it as everyone else, but the VESC project is coming. But the first thing I will release is the battery management system. That is the first idea that I came up with, and that's the first idea that's going to be released. Then it'll most likely be the VESC. The design is reasonably sound. I've got a working VESC prototype which I built up, which has been working on my scooter for the last, well, over a year now, and I've not had an issue with it at all, so I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, after my car is fixed, I'm just going to sell it and get an electric car where you can actually open the bonnet and just work on stuff, because if you need to do anything major to a BMW i3, you've got to remove the engine and the electric motor, and it's just, design like that should be absolutely illegal, because it's just ridiculous. So to actually fix this car, they have to remove the engine and electric motor just to replace a high voltage fuse. To replace a fuse, that's it. A part that costs a few pounds. So yeah, it's quite disgusting, but that's how things are designed these days largely. So yeah, hopefully the next car will not have that problem, and I'll be able to work on it a lot more myself. So yeah, I'm going to end the video there, and all I can do is just say bear with me, and just thank you for your patience, I suppose, but it's just going to take as long as it takes. Money is tight, parts are scarce, things are expensive, and unfortunately I work a normal dead-end job, which is very difficult for me to get out of, so you're just going to have to bear with me, unfortunately.